I'm Jim Collison, live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Call to Coach, recorded on August 5th, 2016. Call to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have questions during the live webcast, we do have a chat room. It's available for you. It's right below the main video window, right down there as you're looking if you're on our live page. And you may not be logged in. And so if you go to the bottom left-hand corner and click Log In, choose the guest account, and then put your name in that guest section. Then click Login. You can join us and ask us questions today. And we are particularly looking for your questions here towards the end. So get logged into the chat room. We'd love to have you there. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, you can contact us. Send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, or use the contact form. There's a contact form right there on the live page at coaching.gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com, for all your coaching resources and StrengthsFinder training needs. You can also catch the video in both downloadable and now streaming audio available for you. You can really listen to us anywhere, in the car, on a train, in a plane. All the links are available for you at the Coaches blog, including the apps for your top 5. If you have trouble remembering those, and some people do, we have both an Android and iPhone app available for you. You can get your top 5 or all 34 if you've unlocked that. It's available on the Coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. Jamie Librot is our guest today, and of course Jamie helps Gallup Strengths-based learning and development programs here. She's the liaison between the coaches and Gallup. She joins me in our social media spaces by helping get you guys information just as fast as we possibly can out to you. And she also provides executive strengths coaching and consulting for Gallup and our clients. And she's just an overall superstar. Jamie Librot, thanks for joining us for Call to Coach.
Thank you, Jim. It's an honor to be here.
Good to have
such a great audience.
Good to have you. Many of the coaches know you. Jamie, let's start with your top 5, and then just give us your summary of what you say your job is here.
Sure. Well, I wear a lot of hats. My top 5 are Achiever, Woo, Focus, Arranger, Competition. And I like to put in positivity number 6 because then that gives me 3 colors, and I'm competitive. So, you know.
You are super competitive.
Yes.
And summarize today. Our roles here at Gallup are constantly morphing and changing.
Exactly.
And we're maximizing them. If you were to kind of summarize the best of your job, the thing they pay you to do here that you have the most fun with, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a couple of different things. And I've been with Gallup for over 10 years now, so my job has changed over the years. I started off selling large strengths initiatives to very large companies and doing the executive coaching. So I sold $2 million in my first 2 years of just these incredible, just high-impact strengths programs, specifically in hospitality, call centers, and sales groups. So those would be my specialties. And then I moved into a role where I was building internal onboarding programs for Gallup, which was such a dream come true. This was before kids, and I got to travel all over the world, to Europe and Asia, to implement these different programs and really understand the business cultures in many different countries. Then for the past 3 years, since we've developed this new certification program, my role has been to build the program in 2 ways. One, to answer questions for coaches before they do the class. And because we know it's a really big investment, so we want to make sure you're very comfortable before you do take the class and that all of your questions are answered. And then the second thing that I do is I support coaches once they have taken the class. So I spend the second half of my day answering questions on anything from just technical questions to how to sell strengths within your business, or even if you're an internal coach, how to sell the idea of the program within your company. And so I really, all of my strengths have to do with influence and execution. So that's really where I like to help people, is how can you influence others? That positive psychology and focusing on developing your strengths is the best way to really bring out the best in people and help them reach their full potential.
Yeah, and it's a passion that rings true in all that you do. We see you helping out there on the Facebook groups and in the Yammer groups, and I know you take calls and you work with the coaches individually. It's a very, very powerful mission. A lot like me in the sense that you're on kind of 24/7,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely.
You never kind of turn it off. You're just kind of always working to get things done.
Right.
You were here with
Well,
us for the summit. I want to get some impression from you as you look. What did you take from the summit, and what are you looking forward to in the next, 6 to 12 months before we do the summit again?
Sure. Well, what I'm really looking forward to in the next 6 to 12 months is our strategic partnerships that we've started to build. So we're really looking to expand our influence to other countries, and a role that I will be transitioning to into the next couple of years is to manage our strategic partnerships. And we have our first one, Emergence Growth in South Africa, is leading and selling our strengths courses there. And I'm hoping that in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll add another 20 to 30 countries. The summit had 24 countries represented, which was absolutely unbelievable. And there's so much more of the world that really hasn't been exposed to strengths yet, and I'd really love to help be part of that movement. And we really appreciate the people who have helped us so far to get to so many different places. So I'll be looking forward to that. I think my biggest takeaway from the summit was when the leader from Accenture spoke, and she talked about the ripple effect and the fact that 278,000 people at Accenture are taking StrengthsFinder. They're certifying 1,000 coaches. They've had 4,000 one-on-one calls year to date. And she said the first thing she wanted to do after having her own executive coaching session was to better understand her husband's strengths. And the point she was making is that not only will 278,000 people at Accenture take StrengthsFinder, but then they'll extend it to their spouses, their schools, their communities, and that's what's going to populate our exchange, which is the area that we now have for certified coaches, where we're going to match people who want to find a coach for themselves to people who want to coach others. So it was just really inspiring. It felt like that's the way that we're going to get to 1 billion people around the world who know what their strengths are, and it seemed like such a wonderful symbiotic relationship that we're starting to build.
Jamie, John Spence asked in the chat room, and John, I'll say that we have hundreds of versions of this in Call the Coach already recorded for you, but he said, I'd love to hear some specific examples of how Jamie has seen internal coaches, because you talk to a lot of these. Internal coaches sell strengths in their companies. And a reminder, if you're watching Call the Coach for the first time, we literally have hundreds where we're interviewing internal folks who are asking that, we ask that question. How are you, how did you get this adopted? We just did Harley Davidson in India, and a great testimony there of that getting done. But Jamie, you're on the ground seeing this. How are you seeing it sold internally?
Yeah, absolutely. Suzanne Clark from ILG, which used to be Starwood Vacation Ownership, made the most spectacular presentation at the summit about this that really helped coaches who are internal and external just understand the process. She'd be a great guest to have in the future, but she really had to present the business case. She had to start by being really honest with her leadership and saying, hey, this is a problem that we need help fixing. And I think that takes such tremendous courage on the part of a leader to go in and say that and ask for the funds to do it. And she had to present the business case, figure out exactly how much everything would cost, and really take a chance that this program would pay off. That you put your reputation on the line there. And what was great is she found that after 2 years, she had fully recouped her investment. And I think for the 2 years after that, they had saved $600,000 a year from having less turnover and less training classes. And my favorite part of the story is that she gave every single person a raise in the last year. So I think that it was certainly worth that. She had that courage and it paid off for her. But it wasn't that simple. She had dozens of meetings where she had to socialize the idea. I did another Call to Coach about relationship mapping, which could be used for internal or external salespeople. And that's the concept of I will literally make an Excel spreadsheet where it's everyone who is a decision maker or an influencer in the company, and I'll write down just whether we've spoken to them, if they're for us, against us, if they know anything about the movement, their experience with consulting or strengths in the past. I'll write down their top 5. And it's a really systematic way for you execution-focused people like myself out there to slowly win everyone over. Because I think when you do the giant pitch in the room to 50 people, you really don't connect with anyone that way. So if you're an external coach, it's important to have someone who's a champion within the company who can introduce you one by one or two by two to the different executives who you need to influence. And if you're an internal coach, your best conversations are going to happen, in the cafeteria and in the lunchroom. So, in more private conversations.
Yeah, I think internally too, you've got to kind of weigh your own strengths from a sales perspective. And if you're not a closer, you better find somebody who you can partner with who will be and help you with that. We just find it's even on the inside when we think about trying to get internal things rolling. It's the same idea as if you're going to go out and do consulting. At the end of the day, someone has to close the deal. And a lot of times these influencers they're great starters, and they dream of magic worlds where things are great, and it's but they don't have that closing instinct. Jamie, you do.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little competition in you.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Closing, but how important is that closing instinct in getting things wrapped up and getting them moving? It's almost as important as kicking it off, I think.
Oh, absolutely. You have to ask people if they are on board or not. I think you really need to ask that question. You need to say, if we brought this up at the board meeting, would you support it? So there's that, but that might sound really harsh to people. You don't have to use that exact words. With I had a manager who once told me, Jamie, direct confrontation is not always the answer. So you have to ask at the end, but you need to find your way to do it. It could be gentler than that, but you need to get a definitive answer and know who's going to support you and who isn't. I think the other important thing is to understand what each person's key platforms are. My experience has been that most executives have 2 to 3 burning platforms every year. So rather than, and they're focused all of their energy and research and resources in those areas. So rather than giving them this 4th initiative, if you could show them how strengths is going to connect to something that they're already looking to pursue. So if they already care about employee engagement, if they already care about retention or safety or team building, then if you could attach strengths to that, then you're going to be a lot more successful.
Indeed. Maureen asked a question you had alluded to, I think, our partnership with the group in South Africa and the partnerships we're doing. Are those, and do you know, and we may not be able to even speak on that, but will that it be exclusively outside of the United States? I don't think at this point we're intending to partner internally, and are there any others that we can talk about yet?
That's our first one. The next countries we're going to go into are going to be probably South Korea and the Dominican Republic. So we need to finalize those locations, but we're going to take it slowly at first and really learn how to do this the right way and make sure that all of those classes have the same quality that our classes in the U.S. have. So far they have. Emergence had exceptional scores, and we had some Gallup people there with them for their first class. So it sounds like they did a tremendous job. But I think that what we really want to focus on here, I think we could do a session on that once we have more partners. What we want to focus on here is really helping people to be better evangelists. So I've got lots of stories that we can share, whether you're an internal coach or an external coach, if you're doing a keynote speech or a training, we've got a whole bunch of stories that we can share with you. Jim Clifton, Gallup's chairman and CEO, has said that when we sell, we're not selling statistics, we're selling stories. That what really connects for people isn't necessarily when you say, oh, well, you have, 14% increase in retention. I think that resonates with people to some extent, but what really gets them excited to commit to strengths is when you can give them the story of the team that you really helped, or the anecdote that just makes the point for them and really transforms how they think about human development.
Yeah, and you've got a couple good we've got queued up. You got one about a pistol shrimp, which I find very fascinating. So walk us through that.
Well, now you gave away the punchline.
No, not really. Tell the story.
Okay, okay, sounds good. Sure. So you guys can play around along at home, and Jim, you can tell me what their answers are.
Yeah.
Because we start this one with a question. So this is about. So I do a speech. For those of you who have been to my breakfast briefings around the country, I've just added this to my repertoire. The next one, if you are interested in, is in New York, August 23rd. We can give you more details about that from the it's at 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning in our office there. Okay, so I'm going to start by asking a question. Then we're going to teach 3 different strengths lessons from this one example. So the question is, what would you say is the loudest creature in the ocean?
Yeah, when we talked about this yesterday, I said, well, it's got to be like the big blue whale, right? That's one of those big
Right.
creatures that's out there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, and that's what I thought when I was initially asked this question. And so usually when I'm doing this presentation, I'll have a picture of a whale queued up and ready because everyone you ask this to is going to guess whale or dolphin. And the answer is actually it's not a whale, it's not a dolphin, it's not a giant creature at all. It's this teeny tiny little creature about the size of a 10-pence coin called the pistol shrimp. I don't know if you can see this very well, but it is this size. You can Google it. It's called a pistol shrimp. And it is louder than the loudest creature than any other creature in the ocean. And the first strengths lesson that we get from this story is that you can't always see someone's strengths, right? And if you were a manager and you were going to hire someone to be really loud for some reason in the ocean, you'd go straight to that blue whale and you would never even give the pistol shrimp a chance. And that definitely got me thinking about how many other talents do we not notice in people? Someone who just doesn't look like they have leadership potential. And are they really this incredible future talent who doesn't meet those standard Hollywood, guidelines of what a leader looks like in a movie? And so that's why I think assessments are so powerful, because it shows us what you can't see. It makes someone's talents visible for the first time. The second interesting lesson that we have about our friend George the Pistol Shrimp is how to coach him. So if you were the traditional non-strength coach, you would say, hey, George, I'm extremely strong, and that's how I outrun my predators, and I'm really fast, so I'm going to teach you everything that I know to make you the fastest, strongest creature in the ocean. And maybe I would work with George for a couple of months, and I think with my incredible teaching, I could get him to improve by 400 or 500%. But even if I did, if he improved by that much, do you think this guy would ever be faster or stronger than a dolphin? I don't think so. I think no matter what we did, he would become lunch if we tried to teach him to be faster and stronger. And so that's our second lesson. It's do what works best for you, not what works best for me. So as his coach, I'm going to learn what makes him loud. And the interesting thing that makes him loud is he has this really strange claw. He has a regular sized claw and like this really large claw. You can kind of imagine that he's probably made fun of by the other shrimp in the playground for that giant claw. But that funny, strange thing about him is what makes him unique and talented. Because in that bizarre large claw, he can actually trap a bubble. And when he pops it, it pops it creates the heat of the sun, and it gets released at the speed of a bullet. And remember, sound travels in a physical wave. So that incredible bubble that he's able to pop creates sound waves that are enough to kill and stun small fish that would like to eat George for lunch. And for a dolphin, he can't hurt dolphins, so don't worry, but he can scare them. And so when a dolphin feels that powerful wave coming forward, it thinks that a much larger creature is coming, and it runs away and hides. So that's our second lesson. Our first lesson was you can't always see someone's strengths. Our second lesson was do what you do best, not what I do best. And our third lesson is really fascinating. It's about complementary partners. Because George, the pistol shrimp, is actually blind. He can't see when his predators are coming. So even though he has this unbelievable gift, he can't use it. Because by the time he sees that you're out to get him, he's already lunch. He's toast. He's done. He's a kebab. But everywhere in nature that you see a pistol shrimp, what fascinates me is that you also find a goby fish. Somehow in nature, these two just seem to find each other in every single circumstance. You will find them bonding for life. And it's a completely symbiotic working relationship. And we see penguins who mate for life, but this is all about work and survival here. And so what happens is the goby fish, fortunately, has taken StrengthsFinder, and his number one talent is relator. So he can build these lifelong symbiotic partnerships. And his only way to protect himself is through this relationship. He has literally no other way to escape his prey, his predators. And so what happens is that the pistol shrimp will hold on to the goby's antenna. And when the goby senses danger, it'll do this like little wiggle dance that it does. And it'll hide behind the pistol shrimp, who will then pop its bubble and save them both. So that's the third lesson. It is develop a complementary partnership. So what I would love to hear from the audience is just ways that they think that they can apply this story, the right groups who they think that they would use it with. Would you use this in a keynote? Any ideas that are just coming off the top of your head? Jim, maybe you could relate one or two.
Yeah, I like. I think for me, when you were talking about this with me yesterday, what I take out of it, I think, and we see this a lot in nature, that there are beings, and I think humans in the same way, where we have these highly defined specialties in there, and this pistol shrimp is able to create this bubble. When it pops it. You mentioned it actually creates plasma on the inside for like a millisecond or something, which creates that temperature of the sun, which is amazing all in itself. But it's a highly specialized, adapted talent that it has to overcome a physical obstacle. And I think in the business world where we're working, we have all these very unique obstacles that have to be overcome. And they need specialists, right? They need people who specialize in, whether it's in sales or it's in development or it's in, it's in taking care of people. I mean, for me, I get this question a lot all the time, like, wow, you're online a lot. That's got to be hard. And I kind of go, no, actually not. I'm kind of driven that way. I wake up in the morning thinking about, wonder what went on with the coaches over the evening hours while I was sleeping. And so I check in, I use my phone, I check in. I've kind of been built with this specialty that allows me to live in the space that I live in, enjoy doing what I do, and do it kind of without ever getting tired of it. I mean, we've created hundreds of these webcasts, and I'm online 3 times, 4 times a week, maybe 5 or 6 if you count my own podcasting that I do on tech. Just don't get tired of it, and because I've been highly specialized in that area, and I think some of the it's great that they know their top 5, but I think you've got to really dig in to help understand, like, what is we say this all the time, but what is your superpower? What is that thing? Is it invisibility? Is it flying? Is it, what? Fill in the blank, right? Whatever that is. But I don't think we get to the top 5 and we explain some things, but I think that the art of coaching is really digging in with the person and listening for those clues for their superpowers, and being able to find that specialty, so to speak, there. So Jamie, that's kind of how I respond to it. There's a couple notes out, and Barbara says keynote material for sure. I think it's a great story. I mean, it is one of those things when you're talking to people, and you talk about that specialization where you can really start to dig in. Maureen says,
with a keynote, I toy with the idea of making it really dramatic and fun, like getting some large person, someone who's 6 feet tall from the audience, and putting them up on stage and putting like a wind-up toy next to them and asking if they could, and saying like, hey, I've been working with this creature, it's improved by 400%, and have them like arm wrestle the toy, outrun the toy, just to make the point, like, no matter what you did, that creature would never, ever be stronger or faster than a dolphin who's 6 feet tall.
Maureen says, I like it for groups that do not value relationships as much as maybe they do others. I find that in high-tech teams or in really influential teams, that works. And it is, when we talk about the third part, right, about teams and how one really depends on another, For me, Jamie, I'm going to ask you this question. For
Yeah.
me, my partners need to be responsible, right? Focus and
Mhm.
responsibility is what I look for in my partners.
Mhm.
You're way more competitive than me and
Mhm.
have some other themes that specialize you. What do you need in a
Right.
partner? What
Yeah.
complements you?
Yeah. We do this fantastic exercise in the coach certification course about partnership, and it's called the best of me, and coaches have this in their coaching managers and teams kit, and it's four questions. It's you get the best of me when, you get the me when, here's what I need from you, and here's what I could bring to the table. And I think it's the most incredible exercise to do. And you can do it with anyone, whether or not they've taken Strengths Finder. It's a great way to stop and reflect and think about that. So for me, my best partner in the company is probably Paul Allen. You've heard both of us talk about this partnership. All of his themes are strategic thinking themes. Up until number 7, where he has competition 2. So where we're both in sync is that whatever we do, it has to be fantastic. And we're both team-oriented competitors, so we want Gallup to win, we want the company to win. We never compete against each other. We're always on the same team, trying to kind of fight for the good of Strengths. But what he does is he gives me these fantastic ideas, and then I could go run and execute them and influence people that they're the right ideas to do. I like the exchange. In a million years, I don't think I ever would have come up with the exchange, and I'm so excited about it, and I can't wait to have all of our coaches on it.
Ryan says he loves the activity. He just ran it
Oh,
last
thank you.
week, and the teams loved it. So good,
Oh, nice.
some good feedback. So you need
Mhm.
you need kind of the future, strategic, looking forward.
Yes.
And that complements you in a way, and you can execute once those things have been defined and put in place, and a vision has been
Right.
cast, and you're
Hmm.
excited about that. You can totally take advantage of it, and then just convince people to do it, right?
Right. Yes, I think so.
Jamie, one of the
Right.
things you've talked about in past call to coaches, and it's always worth kind of going over again, is you're pretty good too at doing, because you're a coach at heart. I think I could
Hmm.
say that pretty safely.
Yes.
You
Yes.
you really analyze people's top 5 in working with them,
Yes.
and then can you talk a
That's a
little bit
great
about that?
point.
Just
Hmm.
expand on that a little
Hmm.
bit more, how you've done that. We've heard the example with Paul Allen. That has come up where you've played to the, and actually you taught me this. I sent him an email the other day. I got this great idea, Paul, and he got back to me right away with
Hmm.
that email. But can you talk a little bit more, maybe even through the influencing or through
Yeah.
the sales cycle?
Right. Absolutely. So when I said I put people's top 5 strengths on my relationship map, for me it's so intuitive why I would do that, but maybe maybe that's not intuitive for everyone. So thank you for helping me connect the dots. But it's so natural that when you're having a conversation with someone about strengths to ask what their top 5 are, right? And whether you're trying to communicate an idea to them or just help them understand or try to influence them, once you know what someone's strengths are, then it makes it so much easier to do that. So if I am making a keynote speech to a room of people full of input, I'm going to make sure I've got some fun facts for them, because that's what's going to convince them that strengths are the way to go. If I have a room full of people who have communication, or I'm talking to an executive who has communication, what's going to sell that person is a really great anecdote. And so and at first I felt a little uncomfortable using this method. I always want to make sure that I'm using, with great power comes great responsibility. So I want to make sure that I'm using my influence the right way. And what really helped me understand that was Paul Allen. So he just made a speech at the summit that was hilarious. And he talked about the fact that I used this with him, this technique. So Paul is famous for his great ideas and having a ton of ideation. I don't know anyone who has better creativity than he does. I really don't. And so what I realized early on is that sometimes it takes him a little bit of time to respond to emails. He probably gets 1,000 emails in a day. So I decided to take advantage of the fact that he has those great strategic thinking themes. And I started, any email that I sent to him, I wrote idea or great idea or new idea in the title. And he would get back to me instantaneously. And I did that 4 or 5 times before I told him that I was doing it. And and so what he said at the summit that just felt amazing is that it didn't make him feel manipulated, it made him feel understood. and that it developed this great trust between us that he knows that anytime I email him, I'm not going to email him something that says, please execute on these things, please influence with these things, please build this relationship. I'm only going to send him things that have to do with his talents. And I hope that my clients feel the same way, that any email or communication they get from me is going to be totally focused on their talents and what they need from me. So they're going to get lots of data if they're strategic thinkers. They're going to get really great marketing documents if they have a lot of influencing themes. They're going to get an activity that will maybe change their mind about things if they have executing talents. So I think that's a great technique that you can use to sell an idea internally, or if you're a private coach as well.
Jamie, you mentioned the exchange, and Barbara brought it up in the chat room. I'll run this by you. She said she'd love to hear more about the exchange. Is it live? Has it replaced the other sites yet? What's the rollout schedule for different aspects of the exchange? What can you talk about?
Yes, absolutely. What a great question. So it goes live on August 19th, and it's not going to replace the directory right now. It may in the future, but the directory is on GallupStrengthsCenter.com. And right now, it's more passive in a way, so people can just find it, and they can find coaches on it. When someone calls me looking for a coach, I'll send them to the directory. Starting August 19th, we're going to ask the 9,000 people a day who are taking StrengthsFinder whether they want a coach for themselves or their organization. And if they do, then we're going to match them using this great algorithm that we're going to be building over time, that says, hey, we think this person could really change your life. Or we're debating whether we give them 1 choice, 3 choices, 5 choices. And because what we've learned is that the most important thing people can do is not just take StrengthsFinder, but have that reflection moment with a coach. The magic really happens when they work with a coach. So we're doing everything we possibly can to make that interaction happen. So the exchange will be where we pull the coaches from when we ask people if they want a strengths coach and they say yes. And people will be directed to the exchange where they'll be able to read coaches' packages that they have. So some coaches might say, I do 1-hour sessions, here's what they cost. Other coaches might say you could buy a 10-pack. Other coaches might say, I only work with teams, so you can sign up for a half day, a full day, a month-long session. Just depending on what that coach wants to do individually.
A site that you can go to, GallupExchange.com, if you want to get more information on there. We have that available out there for you. If you're currently a certified coach in the United States and you want to sign up for it, we're kind of restricting it today to that group, certified coaches in the United States. We'll be opening those circles up as we progress with it. We want to make sure it's working very, very well.
Well, not only that, but yeah, I have so much love for people outside of the U.S. as well. I always want to, and a lot of includers, number 7, so I always want to make sure that they feel part of this movement. And so we want to get outside of the United States as quickly as we possibly can. I've learned recently with some different projects I'm working on how just complicated the accounting gets. Every country we add, there's different VATs, there's different laws about payments, there's different taxes, there's currency issues that we're going to face. So it's really a matter of just sorting out those details, and then we can, and also make sure that the beta in the US is successful. Then we will get everyone else onto the exchange as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah, Jamie, this is a question I've heard before. You might have the answer to it. What happens, Barbara asks, what happens if I send 25 people to take the assessment as part of a workshop I'm leading?
Yes.
Are they going to get asked if they need a coach?
Yeah, I don't think I'm our best expert on the exchange right now, but we are definitely working on that. Where before that goes live, we're going to try to amend that so that we could make sure that that doesn't happen. We certainly don't want coaches competing for their own clients. So that's something that will roll out in the beta, as far as I understand.
Yeah, that's the reason you have a beta, by the way,
right.
is to start, because there's all these unique situations. And so, some of the coaches have said, they really want to get on it. I'm like, well, honestly, we're in beta, so let us work out some of these details around that. I would, if I was a coach at the moment, and you're going to do a 20 in this scenario, I would add a little. You should be sending them a briefing document anyway, so that kind of has some instructions on how to get some things done. And I might add a little line that says, if Gallup asks if you need a coach, you say yes, but I have one.
You say
and
no, I have
or
one.
no, yeah, no, in the
Right.
sense that yes, I have one
Right.
already,
Right.
and you can answer no
Right.
to that question, but
Right.
it's
That's a great idea.
you might want to just kind of prepare them in that way
Right.
for these early days here on the exchange as we get things worked out. Maureen asked the question. She says, Jamie, what have you done to help clients or companies who have used StrengthsFinder in the past? And of course, it was a one and done spa day or something like that. To convince them to make
Right.
additional investments
Yes.
to help their employees. What kind of things have you done along those lines?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to show them the vision of what it would look like. I think they want the details. So people love StrengthsFinder. They intuitively say this would be great, but they don't know what the actual activities would be. So it's so helpful when you paint a picture of the follow-up activities, when you give them examples of specific conflicts that could happen. If you have the grid of their team from their spa day, then you could give them specific situations that you'd like to work on. For example, you can say, hey, I noticed you have 10 people on the team with Maximizer and 5 with Restorative. I bet they have a lot of conflict. Let's work on that together and talk about how they could be perfect partners instead of killing each other and getting really frustrated with each other all the time. You can talk about how we have people's strengths on their name tags or huddle card activities. So for some instances, I'll create a dozen different activities for managers, but they're the types of activities where you don't have to be an expert in order to do them. So it might be something like love, crazy, envy that's in the kit. So which of your strengths do you love? Which drives you crazy? Which do you envy and wish you had? And a group can share those things. So you can give managers a dozen of those, and they could do one with their team each month. So it's just giving them very specific examples of what the movement would look like and points of pain that they might have that will be alleviated by doing this program.
Jamie, you and I are kind of in this business, and John asked this question. He
Right.
says, what additional supports are you considering for certified coaches? I heard Paul mention at the summit that the ability for coaches to access client profiles, for example. I just completed my certification, and I'm especially interested in whether we can access some of the videos and audio clips used in the training in a secure environment. You want to address that, and then I can talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'm really here more to talk about influence and stories, anything technology related. Maybe we could collect all of those questions, and anything exchange related. We can collect those questions too to make sure that we get the right expert who has those answers for you. I'd rather not guess.
Yeah, and I'll say from a technology standpoint, because that is my world, and that's where
Good.
I do live in. Yes, so we can address that as well. And we are making lots of resources available. I'm going to be honest. I'm trying to push a little more open source in what we do. I know we create these certified only things that we have, and many of you are familiar with those. But we'll have a lot of resources coming available that, as certified coaches, you can just take advantage of, and you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get them. And so the key to the certification is the direct access to us and the ability to contact us and get some information from us and have the certified training. But I don't want to hide a bunch of the greatest materials kind of behind a paywall, so to speak, for you to get them. There's we provide these call to coach videos. There's hundreds of them available for you to watch and get access to, and there's lots of tips and tricks involved in them. It's up to you a little bit to dig some of those, some of the best parts of them out and to learn from them as well. So, John, there are things that will be coming. I'm not going to say it's going to be earth-shattering or it's going to change your world from a coaching perspective, but we will continue to support you the best we can. And you know me, I live in public, so we're going to continue to make these things like access to Jamie Librot right now through our channels. Jamie, we got one more kind of story queued up for that. Let's kind of wrap it with that one.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So this is a story that my strengths mentor, Tony Retigliano, would tell in a lot of different workshops, and it's Aesop's fable about the scorpion and the turtle. So some of you may have heard this fable before. So the story goes like this. So there was a scorpion who wanted to cross a pond or lake, and scorpions can't swim. So he again needed a complementary partner. So first he asked a dolphin to take him across, or a fish, but the fish was afraid of getting stung. And he asked a couple of different creatures, and finally he got to the wise old turtle, and he said, "Look, turtle, let me appeal to your sense of wisdom here. Why would I sting you? If you take me halfway across the river and I sting you, we'll both drown. And the turtle said, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So the turtle said, climb on my shell and I'll take you across. So they were swimming across the river and enjoying the beautiful day, and it was a sunny, bright day. And then all of a sudden, the turtle feels a sting from the scorpion. And he's trying to swim, and he's trying to swim, and suddenly the scorpion's sting stopped him from swimming. And the turtle said, Scorpion, why? Why would you do this? It hurts both of us. Now we're both going to drown. And the scorpion said, I'm a scorpion. It's in my nature. And I love that story because I think it speaks to the when we talk about the balconies and the basements of our strengths, that when we try to force people to operate from a weakness or operate from the basement of their strength, and then we're surprised when they fail or do something wrong. And it's just, we shouldn't be surprised. It's, in this case, here you have the turtle who expects the scorpion to not do what scorpions do. And even the scorpion who thought he could trust himself to not sting the turtle. But at the end of the day, he couldn't. He's a scorpion. Scorpions sting. He just couldn't resist the urge to do it. And so as a strengths coach, I'm constantly trying to set my clients up to not be forced to use their weaknesses, and to put them in a place where they're not going to feel compelled to sting.
Yeah, it's a great example of, and for me personally, I'm kind of built to talk, and there are times when I talk too much or say things I shouldn't say or get controversial. But people know that, right? People know that about me, and the more there's some times when it can really be used for power and for good, and as they can set me in those situations, much like we're doing here,
exactly.
It amplifies that power. Yeah.
Right. Rather than if we said, okay, Jim, since you talk so much, let's teach you how to not talk. And we're going to, from now on, you work in the library, and you need to be silent for 8 hours every day, all day. Right? That's what most companies are going to do. They're going to force you to use your weakness because you're a talker. So, but fortunately, you work for Gallup, who embraces your strengths and said, oh, you're a talker. Great. That's your job now. Now you just talk all day long. Be as loud as you want.
Go on the road. And it's funny, I got when I was a freshman in high school, I failed my first year of English. I was in an advanced English class, and I failed.
Yeah.
First class I ever failed ever.
Wow.
And the note that the teacher sent home to my parents said this: it's going to take more than Jim's sparkling personality and smile for him to pass this class, right? And while you think, ouch, really the beginnings. And now as I look back now, as my career is 35 years into my career, I start thinking there was actually some clues to talent in that failure. In other words, being out front, and I talked a lot in that class. And it was all raw versions of communication and woo is what it was. But it was one of those situations where I saw that stinging when you mentioned the stinger.
Right.
That was a stinger. Right? That was just a stinger. And yet it was an early indication of some future strengths.
Yes. And same thing with the pistol shrimp, that silly looking claw. If you Google a picture of a pistol shrimp, the first reaction is that claw looks so weird. It's bizarre. So sometimes that stinger, that's the scorpion has this incredible ability to fight and to fight its prey and to survive in really harsh circumstances. And it's incredibly powerful weapon that it could use as a tool or as a weapon. I do that weapon tool analogy. I've got another story that I do that I call a toddler with a fire hose. So I do this at my breakfast briefings again. So I'll put up a picture of firefighters, and there's 6 of them in this beautiful coordinated effort, and they're using a fire hose to put out a fire. And they're 6 strong men and women who are doing this. And the question is, what skills and knowledge and talents do you see here? And it's a great way to teach the difference between skill, knowledge, and talent. So the talents are they're brave, they put the team before the individual, they can cooperate with each other. The skill is they've learned how to turn the hose on, they've learned that they need 6 of them to hold it, and the knowledge is the basic principle. The skill is just practicing holding it and aiming it, and the knowledge is how to turn it on, how it works, the power of it, how to direct it. And then I put a picture of my daughter Lucy, who's 5, who at one point when she was 4 wanted to be a firefighter. And she looks adorable. And I say, here's Lucy. She has all of the talents you just described. And I tell a story about her courage and how she loves to help people. And then I say, okay, now I'm going to show you a picture of Lucy holding this fire hose. And the audience goes, like, what? You can't do. And I say, what? Why can't we just hand her a fire hose? She has all of the talent she needs to be a successful firefighter. And the answer is she doesn't have the skill or knowledge. The knowledge, she has no idea what to do with it, and the skill is the physical muscle. It's practice. She'd be thrown around straight across the room if we handed her a live fire hose. And so it makes the point that your talents can either be a tool or a weapon. It's a tool once you've learned how to use them. It's a weapon if you're like the scorpion and you just haven't figured out the right place to use them yet. Or like Jim's talking if you can't figure out exactly where to use those yet. So,
no, it's an example of growth, I think, too, when we think of sometimes time. We just need time. The talent can be there, all the right things can be in place, but I'm not big enough yet. I haven't grown enough into I have not done enough things in that space to be able to, and sometimes I just we have a group of interns that are here every summer now that I was talking to you about before we started, and some of them just need time. They need water to go under the bridge, and if I push them too hard or too fast and they're not ready for it, we need to kind of pull back a little bit and say, you know what, that talent is there. It's just not, you're not ready from a development standpoint to push you that hard, right? In your daughter's case, she just needs to grow.
Yes, physically grow. Yes.
There's nothing we can do to speed that up. It's just going to happen in the course of time. And so I think we often don't talk about the time element in the growth aspect of this talents of of that times investment equals strengths. There also has to be, and this is why people need coaches. Sometimes coaches need to say, hey, we just need a little bit, we need some more practice. We need some more time to go under the bridge to make this possible.
Yeah, and in fact, in behavioral research, there's a bias called history, where it is just assuming that over time people are going to naturally improve. So when you're doing a test and retest, or when you're looking at people over time, you need to take into account that they're naturally going to get better. There's a great story. I was just reading Soar with Your Strengths over the weekend, and over last weekend, and there's this great story about the fastest man in the world. That the first time his track coach saw him, it was the first day of high school, sophomore year of high school. The coach took one look at his new recruits and said, oh, they're all a bunch of ugly ducklings. Not one of them here has any talent. And then 6 months later, he timed people again. And all of a sudden, in 6 months, this kid, just on his own, was incredible. He ran a quarter mile the first time, I think it was 64 seconds, the next quarter mile in 69 seconds, the third quarter mile in 68 seconds, and the coach said, holy cow, and I almost passed on this talent. And this kid could potentially run a mile in under 4 minutes in high school. And sure enough, once they spotted the talent and did the work, improved the skill and knowledge, this kid was able to do a mile in 3 minutes and 51 seconds. It's the most incredible story. Mm-hmm. So sometimes there's a lot of maximizers out there who might be cringing, but sometimes you need to give someone not just a first look, but a second look too, to identify their talents. Or again, going back to the pistol shrimp, that's why we need to do assessments, because what StrengthsFinder is telling us, it's someone's potential. It gives us a clue to what their potential is, and those secret things that aren't talents yet that we need to pull out of them as their coaches and teachers and mentors.
We had a perfect example this summer of an intern who came very aggressive when he got here, and just in style and performance, and that sometimes in groups that gets singled out. It's like, watch that person. And so I began to watch him in his development. And he was doing great. He was just doing great work. But where I really saw that talent shine is we had an ultimate frisbee league here this summer that we played out on our front lawn, which was awesome. And he literally would run himself to exhaustion. The hustle translated not only in the way he worked, but in the way he played. And that a light came on. I saw him. We were playing about halfway through, and he was leaning over on the side, hands on his hips, bent over, just trying to get air. And he had run himself because everything he does, he just hustles. And so for me as a manager, I was like, okay, I need to continue, and he loves it. I need to continue to give him tasks that he can just run and be successful in.
Right.
And sometimes isolate him from the group. It's one of those things where the group can actually be a hindrance to him. Like
Absolutely.
where team is not working in your favor. Team is not always the best, by the way.
Right.
People always think of teamwork and those kinds of things. That's everything. No, not always. Sometimes individual contribution is the best to grab one person who can do it the best and make sure it gets done. When you're flying a rocket into outer space, you want the best engineer in charge of doing the design, and you want a guy who's going to make sure it gets done right. And so, that's one of those things that you want to make available. So, perfect example, I think, of that this summer. Jamie, we're out of time. Anything you want to just wrap it up with?
Just the power of stories. That stories are what people remember. And even I love that quote, you won't always remember what people say, but you'll remember how they made you feel. So if you can get that one transformative, provocative story, then even if people don't remember what the story was, they'll remember that it made them reflect on something, or that it made them suddenly believe in focusing on strengths. So I would say, I'm constantly collecting stories, so if you have any great fables or stories or anecdotes, please email them to me, Jamie_Librot@Gallup.com, and maybe we'll use them in a future blog or a future call to coach, and if there's any way that I could be helpful in helping you spread the strengths message, then please reach out anytime.
Very cool. Jamie, thanks for taking the afternoon to be with us and to jump on here. I was talking with Paul. He said you have to have Jamie on Call the Coach. So we booked her. If you are a fan of Call the Coach and you've been listening to them, we actually are going to be doing some really fun stuff with Call the Coach here towards the end of 2016 and into 2017. So if you've subscribed to this and you watch them or listen to them on a regular basis, watch out. We got some fun stuff coming. Been brainstorming on how to take this medium kind of to the next level. We're going to get you involved in them, and you're going to create some fun stuff for us. So just listen. You might want to follow me on Facebook or follow us on Facebook if you go out to the coach's blog, coaching.gallup.com, and look in the new resources tab, by the way. I built that for you just based on the feedback we got and for the summit. And so there's a brand new resources tab that's out there. Everything you can get involved in with social. The Facebook link is one of the very first ones. Join us in that group and watch it because we're going to get you involved. For you creatives, you're going to love this. There's some great stuff coming up. Remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strengths Center. That's really where everything starts, GallupStrengthsCenter.com. You can send us your questions, comments. If you'd like to be a guest blogger, you can send those in to us as well. Send us the full blog as written in the subject line. Put guest blogger. We'll route that to the right person. Send that to coaching@gallup.com. Micah will take a peek at those, and if we can use them, we will include them. You can also catch the recorded audio and downloadable now video and not downloadable video, but downloadable audio for offline listening if you want to do it in the car, in the train, on a plane. Over at our coach's blog, again, the links to our Facebook group, YouTube page, iTunes, RSS feeds, iPhone, Android apps, all that stuff, including the companion guides for Theme Thursday. Everything you need is at the coach's blog, coaching.gallup.com. If you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach, you got one of the best people on the planet who knows about that sitting right across from me right now. All the courses are available if you want to take a look and see if they're available in your region, and many of them are. We're doing them all around the world. Courses.gallup.com. Send us an email, certification@gallup.com. Jamie, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think we're going to add 10 more locations in the U.S. In the next couple of months. So please keep checking back to see if we've added a location closer to you. We've just added, I think, 10 more in the last couple of months. So yeah.
But if you can come to Omaha, it's
Omaha and DC are pretty spectacular to see. Yeah.
It's pretty fun, and I get to see you, which is very, very cool. I love it when you come to Omaha, and I get to meet you. I try to come in early on those first days so that I can be sitting in the atrium when you walk in. So if you do that. If you found this video helpful, we'd ask that you share it. We'll look forward to the next Call to Coach. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.